Hi, this is just a very brief impromptu live. I just wanted to go over something that I had a client come to me at my last class, or one of my last classes, and said to me, I just don't even know where to start. And I wasn't quite sure what she meant by that. So after a few questions, basically she was telling me that she doesn't know how to cut the card base and how to cut the mats and where to go from there. And I think as a teacher or instructor or just someone who makes cards a lot, I think we tend to forget actually that there are some that just if you're starting out, that there are some basic things that you just forget about that are really important, like where to start. So I thought I'd just do this quick video just to go over this and where to start at the beginning. So I always use a thick Whisper White cardstock, and this is in A4. And that's what we tend to use in New Zealand. So this is the A4 thick white cardstock, and I do find that the thick white cardstock, I'm just going to turn on some lights, the thick white cardstock is the best for doing the base of your cards. Now if you're using a coloured cardstock, they're thicker, but if you're just using the standard Whisper White, that is a little bit thin, and when you go to stand up your card or when you pop things onto the front of your card, then that it doesn't hold up very well. So it is really good just to have your card base as thick Whisper White. Now for the standard card fold that we would use most of the time, the best way to do this is to use your trimmer and measure it to 10.5 centimetres. Now this is the tricky part. You've got to really remember to use the scorer and not the cutter. I have been known to do that at times. So you just run that down at 10.5 centimetres. Then you grab your cardstock, flip it round to landscape and cut at 14.8. So now you have two card bases with thick white cardstock. So let me just write that down on the side here. I'll pop that to one side. So that's using an A4, you score portrait at 10.5 centimetres, turn to landscape and cut at 14.8. And you don't have any wastage. You have two perfect card bases from that. And as I say, you can use this in colour. It doesn't have to be white, but that tends to be the standard card base. Now the other thing I said was to use your catalogue full of fantastic inspiration. Use the internet, look at Pinterest, Google, anything like that. If you're making a card for someone, a masculine card or a golfer or something like that, and you want to get some ideas, there's absolutely nothing wrong with researching some ideas. You don't necessarily have to follow exactly what you see online, but it is not frowned upon for us at Stampin' Up if you want to case something out of the catalogue or anything like that. I'm more than happy for people to. Obviously, if you're advertising it or using it in any way, it's good to recognise the person that has created the card. Really important. Now the next thing I talked about was doing mats. So oh yes, hello Linda, it is a nice surprise, totally impromptu. I just decided, as I was saying at the beginning, I had someone that was asking me about where to begin, and I thought, gosh, sometimes as an experienced card maker you do forget really, so I just thought I'd pop this on quickly in case there was anyone else out there. I'm sure you know where to begin, Linda, but thank you for joining me. But the next thing I do for my cards, now some people don't like these mats as big, but I will do mine at 0.5 of centimetre each way less to get a mat. Now if you want a skinnier mat, then by all means don't do it as much. So when I say 0.5, I would then cut this, which is now, this is now 10.5 by 14.8 if you measure the front. So I would then cut that 10 centimetres by 14.3, and I would go down for each mat. But some people don't like the mat quite as big, but I quite like mine at 0.5, and that's just standard, but I will change that if I need to for certain looks. So that's how to get your mat. Now, when you decide on a colour theme, or you decide you want to use some paper, some particular specialty paper, I will then go and look at the paper that I'm using. I'll turn this up the right way, this helps. I will look at the paper, and on every of our specialty papers, the outside cover, or sometimes it's on the cardstock that's on the back, will tell you what colours are involved in creating this beautiful paper. So for this Ornate Garden specialty paper, it has got Bumblebee, Early Espresso, Mint Macaroon, Old Olive, Terracotta Tile and Whisper White. So that really, really gives you a good base to start from. And then you can go from there with your sentiment and things like that, depending on what you're wanting to create the card for. So I just thought, as I say, it's a really quick little video just to go over those measurements, just to go over how I start a card. Often I also will look at a stamp set and think, oh, I really like the stamp set, I want to work with that today. And I will Google that or look at Pinterest just to get some other ideas about what people have created with that stamp set. Say this is the Birds and Branches one. And I won't always copy exactly, but often if you look at a few things, you get some really good ideas, and you then get your creativeness going, and you can create your own card. But you can, as I say, copy it directly, but then you just have to then thank the person that you have copied from, or even if you've cased from the catalogue. So we do use that word casing, which is copy and share everything, and it is something that we promote. But if you've got any questions, if you've got anything you'd like to ask, or any further inquiries about where you would start, feel free to ask and I will answer your questions. So I hope this helps someone out there, and look forward to hearing from you. Bye, Linda. See everybody.